staying in a place where you shouldn't be never leads to anything good. It's not my fault this time. I stopped at a traffic light when a man stopped next to me and signaled for me to roll down the window. "You have a flat tire," he informed me. Grateful for the help, I turned into the parking lot of the nearest store on the right. When I got out of the car to inspect the damage, I saw that a screw was sticking out of the tire tread, which was slowly releasing air. I was just unlucky. What should I do now? I decided to stop and buy a can of sealant, but when I returned and pulled the screw out of the tire, I quickly realized that this was a mistake as the air began to come out with a hiss. In a panic, I quickly put the screw back in and inflated the tire at the nearest gas station in the parking lot. When I was no more than 15 miles from home, I checked the tire several times, ready to add more sealant if necessary. Driving up to the house, which was about 5 miles away, I noticed in the driver's side mirror that the tire was dangerously flat. Desperate to find a solution, I went to the store but found that they did not have a pump available. It's time to test the sealant for durability. When I inserted it, a small amount of green mucus leaked out of it. It was expected that the sealant would do its job as the hissing of the escaping air stopped. Just as I was about to get back into the car, I saw a pickup truck heading my way. This massive car had huge tires and was so tall that it required a ladder to climb into it. I've seen this pickup truck before. The door swung open and a tall blond man appeared, dressed in cowboy boots and a large belt with a bright buckle. I couldn't help but laugh, but my amusement quickly evaporated. The passenger door swung open, revealing a stunning woman with dark hair. It was Rachel, my wife, whom I have been married to for 18 years. Surprisingly, they didn't even pay attention to my presence while I was sitting on the sidelines in my inconspicuous official car. When they entered the store hand in hand, she burst out laughing, which made my stomach hurt. I felt as if I had been hit, unable to breathe or move. I stood there stunned and remembered where I had seen this man before. He was Rachel's colleague at the psychiatric clinic where she worked as an office manager, and he was a social worker. When I saw their clinic's truck on the street, I wondered what Rachel had to do with it. At that moment, his name escaped me. It finally dawned on me, Jerry Garner. The question was, why wasn't Rachel at work? I was going to find out. I went back to the car and waited. He helped her sit down as they left the store carrying glasses of coffee. They roared off, and I followed them at a respectful distance. They drove up to our house, and he pulled into the garage. I waited for 30 minutes, nervous at the thought of Rachel. It took 2 hours before the door finally opened, and they walked past me. I quickly hid behind a folder of documents, hoping that they would not notice me. Rachel was sitting across from him, completely engrossed in her conversation. Rachel wouldn't be available until 5 o'clock, and it was only 2:30 in the afternoon. I had plenty of time. I needed to go inside and see what I could find. I was supposed to pick up my 15-year-old daughter, Toby, at 4 o'clock, but I had no idea what to say to her. When I entered the house, it was eerily quiet, except for the dripping water from the faucet in Toby's bathroom, which I needed to fix. The only sound was the slight hum of the air conditioning vents. Everything was waiting, but I couldn't get rid of the feeling that something was wrong. When I went upstairs, I found Toby's bed neatly made, which further enhanced the mystery of the quiet house. The bed linen was fresh. My heart started pounding like a stone. I leaned back against the wall and slid to the floor. I felt numb. There was only one rational explanation in my head. I sat there for about 30 minutes. My mind was in free mode. I couldn't sort out my thoughts and felt like I was drugged. My stomach rumbled. I got up and opened the Sprite. I felt hot and sweaty. I went back to the bathroom and rummaged in the dressing table for a washcloth. I soaked it in the sink and rinsed my face with cold water, feeling a little lighter. While wiping my face, I noticed the wet floor in the shower. They must have taken a shower before leaving for work. This realization came to me when I returned to the bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed from which my wife and her lover had just left. This thought made me jump with horror. After all, it was a scene of betrayal and deception. I had no idea what to do. I was going to divorce Rachel, it was quite obvious. I didn't know where to start at all. I didn't know any lawyers, and I had no idea what to do. Plus, I had to pick Toby up from school. What am I going to tell her? I walked to the car feeling like I'd been drinking for 10 days in a row. My head was throbbing, and I looked like I was being warmed by death. I was in no condition to drive, but I couldn't keep Toby waiting. I suddenly realized that she was the only one in my life I could really rely on. My baby was fine. I was going to take care of her no matter what. I had to take her opinion into account. When I entered the queue of cars, I saw that she was waiting at the door of the school. She was walking down the sidewalk to the car, so beautiful that my heart ached. Toby had her mother's hair and skin. Her appearance was dark and reminiscent of the Mediterranean. Her eyes were the most incredible I had ever seen, a mesmerizing mix of dark brown like her mother's with shades of gold and green. The doctor called them nutty, but they didn't look like anything I'd ever seen. Tall like me, she had long brown legs that complemented her beauty. Opening the back door and throwing her backpack inside, she was about to kiss me, but suddenly froze in place. Are you feeling well? Something happened? Is Mom okay? What's going on, Dad? Her voice trembled with fear. I had to calm her down. I'm fine, honey, I replied. No one was injured or ill, but I need to talk to you, Toby. Let's go to the park. I just need to hug you and talk to you for a minute, okay? Please don't ask any more questions until we get there, okay? Okay, Dad, but you're scaring me, she said softly. I know, honey, I assured her that everything would be fine, although I wasn't completely sure of it myself. A few minutes later, we arrived at the park where I spent countless hours rocking her on a swing, watching her. I couldn't help but wonder if my life wasn't destined to be filled only with memories of happy times. We walked to the nearest bench, and she took my hand, interlacing our fingers as we walked. It was a familiar gesture that she had been making since she was a child. With great difficulty, I got to a place where we could sit down. I couldn't find the words to start a conversation. Just tell me, Dad, she urged. I can handle it. I'm not sure I can, I admitted. Words poured out of me, describing everything I had witnessed and the emotions that overwhelmed me. Tears were streaming down my face as I spoke. Throughout it all, she held my hand, silently supporting me. When I finally stopped talking, she hugged me, comforting me in a moment of vulnerability. Dad, that doesn't sound good, she said. We should go home and ask Mom about it. It all depends on what she tells us. I know what awaits us, but we don't have all the information we need to talk to her. I kissed the top of her head, proud of her bravery. She pulled on my arm, urging me to stand up. Do you want to drive? I suggested. Her eyes were shining with delight, having just received permission to study. She felt a cloud flicker in her beautiful eyes, but it quickly disappeared when she carefully drove home, noticing Rachel's car parked in the garage. When she entered the house, she greeted everyone with hugs and kisses, expecting that she didn't care at all. She didn't seem to be the crook I thought she was. Maybe she's just a talented actress, or maybe I completely misunderstood the situation. Do you two want to take something with you for the evening? She asked, offering to treat us. We need to talk to Mom, Toby said. Of course. Is everything all right, dear? I replied. I'm not sure, Toby replied. Let's talk and figure it out. When we entered the room, I settled down on the couch next to Toby, leaving Rachel sitting in her favorite but unattractive chair. What's going on? She asked, her face devoid of any worry. How was your day? I asked, following her with a curious look. Everything is as usual, she replied. One of the representatives of the pharmacy brought lunch from a basket with onions. There were a lot of people, and I hardly had a free minute. Why are you asking this? So you've been sitting in the office all day? Toby asked. Of course, she replied. What kind of questions are these? So you weren't at the house with Jerry Garner this afternoon? I asked. Her face paled. Of course not, she said. Are you accusing me of something, Oliver? I saw you, I told her. You didn't see anything, she was stuttering now. What are you trying to do? Toby asked. He's lying, Toby. I've been in the office all day. You can ask the angel. Toby shook her head. No, I don't think he's lying, Mom, Toby said. I think you're lying. I'm not going to ask an angel, she'll lie for you. I think I'll call David Jones. He's your boss, right? I don't think he would lie for you. What's his number? I'll have him call you tomorrow, Rachel said. What are you two doing? Are you trying to trick me or something? Do you think you can just come here and try to trip me up? What are you accusing me of? I think she thought the best offense was a good offense. I think you set yourself up, I told her. You lied, Rachel. All three of us know that you lied. Why are you doing this? I could see the wheels turning in her head. Okay, I was here, she said. That's why I didn't want to tell you. I knew you'd give me the third-degree interrogation and try to accuse me of something. No one has accused you of anything, Toby said. Now I'm accusing you of something. You tried to make me believe that my father was a liar. You tried to make him look like a liar to cover up your lies. What are you lying about, Mom? Are you having an affair with that idiot you don't even know? Rachel said. Why did you say he was an idiot? I've met him twice, Toby said. His gaze makes me want to take a relaxing bath, but it's nothing. Are you romantically involved with him? Toby asked. Rachel's eyes darted nervously from one place to another, resembling the gaze of a cornered animal. I didn't want it to happen like this, she admitted after a moment of silence. I wasn't ready. What wasn't I ready for? Toby asked. I just couldn't help but fall in love with Jerry, she confessed, looking at me apologetically. I'm sorry, Oliver. It just happened that way. We spend a lot of time together at work. He is my soulmate, the missing part that complements me. Our bond was undeniable, and we fell in love with each other. I planned to tell you about it when the time came, but circumstances forced us to do it sooner. As soon as we finalize the divorce, we'll get married. I'm very sorry that you misunderstood everything so much, Toby. It's going to be okay, you can still see your dad whenever you want. Jerry has a great place by the lake, and he also has a daughter who likes you. We'll all be happy together. Don't worry, everything will work out. Toby practically exploded. I'm not going to live with this jerk. He'll probably sneak into my bedroom at night to molest me. You're right. I will see my father whenever I want because I will live with him, but I won't see you anymore. How could you? With that, Toby left. Rachel turned to me and said, she's going to be fine. Jerry's a great guy, Oliver. I think you'll get along with him. I'm sorry, but I need to put my own happiness first. Jerry brings me joy, and that's all that matters to me. I was shocked by her words. Who was this woman in front of me? It seemed to me that her true identity had shifted to someone else. I had no desire to engage in conversation with a woman who expected instability and danger. Whatever you say, Rachel, I replied calmly. Where are you planning to move out? I asked. When will you leave? I considered her words. But I have nowhere to go. Jerry is married, and there's nothing we can do until we tell his wife. We'll all have to get divorced and see how the settlement goes before we figure out what to do. No, you're moving out, I told her. I'll give you 3 days. Her jaw dropped. What the hell are you talking about? You can't kick me out of my own house. If anything, you should be the one to move out. You're forgetting something, I said. This is my home. It belonged to me before I met you. I paid for the house and owned it before our marriage. This is not a family property but exclusively mine. My name is on the document, not yours. That's why you'll have to move out of the house. When asked where she was going, I answered indifferently, suggesting that she might be staying at a motel known for her infidelity. That's where you fallen women do your dirty work, right? Her eyes filled with tears. I'm in a lot of pain, Oliver, she said. You don't have to call me names. I wasn't trying to fall in love with Jerry. It just happened that way. We just found a common language, and I realized that I had to be with him. I wasn't trying to hurt you. Oh, you just bumped into me by accident, I said. It's like falling down while running with a stick in your hand and gouging out your eye. Mom always warned me about this. Now I understand how it happens. Well, that's all right then. It was an accident, and there's no need to be so sarcastic about it, she said. Why can't you just accept the fact that we love each other, Oliver? I don't know, Rachel, I said. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that when I left this morning, you told me that you loved me, and now you're telling me that you love him. I guess I'm just a little confused. I've always loved you, Oliver, she said, but now I love Jerry. I know it's not easy to accept. She continued. I nodded, trying to make sense of her words. For the last 18 years, you've been telling me every day that you love me, Rachel. I thought that was why we got married, I said. I guess I was wrong, she replied. No, we were in love, she insisted, reaching for my hand. I pulled away. You have 3 days, Rachel, I said firmly. If you don't leave within 3 days, I'll ask the sheriff to evict you and throw your stuff on the road. Please, Oliver, it doesn't have to end like this. We can still be friends. Jerry wants to be your friend too. We have to think about Toby. I have already said that you are dear to me, and I do not want to lose you as a friend. We've been through a lot together. You shouldn't just drop everything, she pleaded. I looked at her, feeling a wave of sadness and anger wash over me. It seemed to me that anger was boiling inside me, displacing all calmness. You must be crazy, Rachel, I hissed. Be friends with you and that idiot? I do not think so. Tell him that if he ever sees me, he should run as fast as possible. As for you, you're the enemy, Rachel. You have 3 days to disappear from my life forever, I said before heading into the bedroom, leaving her behind. While I was moving her things into the spare bedroom, she followed me, muttering something about friends. There were too many clothes for me to carry, so I just threw them on top of her, carried an armful to the spare bedroom, and hung them in the closet. She kept following me. She stood talking and watching me for a while, but when she went to hang up her clothes, I took the opportunity to leave and lock the bedroom door. I heard her footsteps as she walked down the hallway, but eventually, she left. A few minutes later, Toby texted me, asking if I was okay. I replied, yes, kitten, and you? She replied, no, but I will. I reassured her with a message, okay, I love you. I also asked her to contact me if she needed anything. Can you give me a ride to school in the morning? She asked. I didn't want to go with her in the car. Okay, I replied. I went to bed and lay there for a while, thinking about my next steps. I must have fallen asleep around 3 o'clock because the alarm clock on my phone woke me up. I got out of bed, took a shower, and called my boss. I informed him of my divorce and asked for a few days off. He was understanding and told me to take as much time as I needed. After the call, I made myself a cup of coffee. After drinking a cup or two of coffee, I made breakfast for Toby and myself. Right on schedule, she came downstairs, looked radiant as always, and began to eat greedily. Rachel soon joined us, poured herself a cup of coffee, and tried to start a conversation, but we ignored her. When it was time to take Toby to school, Rachel asked if she was ready but received only a blank look. Toby turned to me and said, "Am I ready, Dad?" I rattled the keys, and she grabbed her backpack, signaling that she was ready to go. "You can act like 2-year-olds if it makes you feel good," Rachel said, picking up her purse and taking one last look at us before leaving. I drove Toby to school, and she kissed me goodbye before she left. As I walked her out, I thought about my friend Dan, who had recently gone through a divorce. I decided to call him and ask about a lawyer, but Dan did not recommend his lawyer and instead offered me the services of his wife's lawyer. After he told me that name, I looked up the phone number. When I dialed the number, a woman answered who put me on standby. After I explained the purpose of my call, she agreed to meet later that day, and I followed the standard procedures. Since investments were at stake, my options were limited. I decided to reduce the credit card limit to $500 to prevent a possible increase in her bills. Although it wasn't perfect, I refused to finance her project. My first meeting with Elizabeth Baxter didn't start quite smoothly. She made some wrong assumptions which I had to correct before we could get to work. She hinted that I had left Rachel for a younger woman, but I quickly brought her up to speed. I informed her that Rachel was actually having an affair with her colleague who was married, and they were planning to divorce in order to be together. Elizabeth apologized and stated that she could not represent the interests of a person who commits such acts. I felt creepy, and I couldn't look at my reflection in the mirror. I understand, I replied. We have a daughter. I want to minimize the consequences for her. Do you think it's possible for me to get custody? It's possible, she replied. Theoretically, any parent has an equal chance of getting custody, but in reality, fathers rarely get custody, especially of their daughters. How old is she, and does she want to live with you? She's 15, I replied, and she agreed to live with me. This will be crucial for the court's decision, she explained. In this jurisdiction, children aged 14 and older have the right to choose, but the preferences of younger children are taken into account. If the child were much younger, his opinion would not have such weight. The fact that a 15-year-old teenager wants to live with you and already has a primary place of residence with you should be an important factor in making a custody decision. This shouldn't be a difficult issue to solve. Just do your best. I reassured her. As I drove home, I thought about what steps I should take next. I had a plan, but I had to make sure it didn't go beyond the law. I couldn't lose Toby, so I couldn't take any chances. I had to think about what legal options there were. It was necessary to set fire to houses carefully so as not to accidentally damage their property. I needed to think carefully and plan my actions. It seemed to me that his wife was not aware of the situation, so the first step would be to inform her. It was necessary to make a list of steps to be taken, and in the end, I realized that I had to inform her family about the situation. They adored Toby, so the first task was to tell them the news. But I didn't know what to do better. Informing our friends was also a top PR priority, and I decided that I could create enough noise on social media so that they would not remain indifferent. Notifying everyone was at the top of my to-do list. She had access to our family Facebook account, so I got to know him by twirling it in my hands and using the messenger function. After doing a little research on the internet, I found that Jerry's wife used a similar approach. I took screenshots of some of the photos and posted a message on Rachel's page about our divorce. I mentioned that she found her soulmate, Jerry, by posting a picture of him. After changing my password and logging out, I felt rested. I couldn't help but wonder how long it would be before her friends and family started contacting her. I was hoping that Jerry's wife would not stay away. Even though I didn't know her, I felt guilty about the drama that was about to unfold. I decided to call my mom, knowing that in my place, she would prefer to find out the truth rather than remain in the dark. The conversation did not go as smoothly as I had hoped, but my mother assured me that she would inform my father and that they would always be there for me. I decided to let Rachel break the news to her parents because I didn't want to be the cause of a possible breakup in their relationship. Despite my uncertainty, I knew that in the end, I had to figure out what to tell them. The message that your daughter is a fallen woman prone to infidelity was far, far from ideal. It was almost obvious that whoever handed me over would face a backlash. I didn't have to wait long. By 2:00 in the afternoon, Rachel's number appeared on my phone. When I answered, she immediately got angry, calling me a jerk. I couldn't help but feel satisfied with her initial reaction. It looks like you couldn't help but cause trouble, could you? I know you blocked me on Facebook. You need to sort out this mess. Jerry's wife is not aware of the situation. Are my friends constantly calling me to find out what happened? And are my parents aware of all the events? I'm warning you, Oliver, stop this nonsense, I told her. She wasn't my boss. What are you acting like a child, she told me. That's enough, Oliver, she insisted. Why? I asked. You should be happy that everyone can get to know you and your partner. Are you ashamed that people will realize that you're cheating, Rachel? She hesitated. She suddenly realized the absurdity of her words. Oliver, please put it away, she said. This shouldn't have happened. I informed her. The moment you cheated, you lost all say in how events would unfold. All rights to my attention, respect, or even basic politeness have sunk into oblivion. You're the enemy now, Rachel. Accept it, I said before ending the conversation. The phone rang again, but I decided to ignore it. It was time to go after Toby. I told her about the results of my conversation with Elizabeth Baxter, and although she was glad that she would most likely be with me, on the whole, she was not happy at all. "Well, we're going to have to handle this as best we can," she said. "Dad, I never want to stay in the same house with this jerk without you. Please do everything you can to make sure that doesn't happen." "Okay, I'll do my best," I assured her. We bought pizza on the way home, and I was savoring the second slice when the phone rang. It was Bob, Rachel's father. He called, and I was terribly afraid of this conversation. I told Toby who it was, and she told me to put it on speaker. He got straight to the point. "Oliver, I do not know exactly what is going on, but Rachel came here last night and asked if she could stay with us. Could you explain how this happened?" "Did you ask her?" I asked. "She said you kicked her out." "Well, I kicked her out, but did she tell you why?" "No, she said she was going to explain, but she wasn't ready." "You really don't want to wait for her to explain everything?" I asked. "Can't you just tell me?" He answered, "She's having an affair with Jerry Garner, her colleague. He's getting divorced, and she was planning to divorce me." "They're dating," I said. "What?" "This is crazy, Oliver." "How did you figure that out?" he asked. "I caught them together yesterday," I confessed, "and she told me herself." "Are you sure you heard correctly?" he asked. Toby intervened in the conversation. "Hello, Grandpa." I listened carefully. "Dad is talking to you on speakerphone. There is no misunderstanding here." "I'm really sorry, Grandpa." "I love you," she was sobbing, and he could hear it. When he spoke again, his voice cracked. "Don't cry, my beloved granddaughter. Please be strong." "Okay, I love you, and Grandma too. I'll try to talk to your mom." "Oliver, are you still here?" "Yes, I'm sorry, Bob." "Don't worry about Toby. You are her grandparents, and nothing will change that. I know that you love Rachel, and you will do what you have to do. I respect you more than I can put into words. I hope you won't hate me when it's over." "This will never happen," he said. "I'll understand what's going on. Call me if you need anything." It went better than I feared. Everything happens. You're doing your best. There's no need to describe in detail what happened during the divorce process. Many people are familiar with those who have experienced a similar situation. It was a long and painful process that did not portend any improvement. Rachel was expected to be in a daze, believing that she would get custody of Toby, but this did not happen. Miss Baxter turned out to be as competent as rumored. In the end, I got full custody because Toby decided to live with me, and after a personal conversation with Toby, the judge decided that Rachel would have unlimited visitation rights, but not those that would allow Toby to be alone with her and Jerry Garner. In any case, this situation is no longer a problem. His wife divorced him, and it seems that the idea that they were soulmates was perhaps exaggerated, at least from his point of view. Just 2 weeks after I found out about their affair, he was already courting someone new. It was expected that all their grandiose plans would quickly collapse. It took 7 months for the divorce to be finalized, but then Rachel changed her mind. I was shocked when, during the second court session, she asked for a consultation. Despite the fact that I or Miss Baxter could not object to anything, it turned out that it was not relevant to the case, and the judge ordered that it not be taken into account. We were scheduled for 8 to 10 sessions. The therapist was an eccentric old hippie. In the first session, we were asked to talk about our goals. Rachel's goal was complex and detailed. She emphasized the importance of her happiness and insisted that she meant no harm. My goal, on the contrary, was more straightforward. "My goal is to end this," I said. Our spiritual mentor frowned. "Mr. Barrowman, aren't you interested in working on the problems that have brought your marriage to such a state?" "I'm sorry, Mr. Rodman, but it wasn't my problems that brought my marriage to this state, and I'm really not interested in working on them. I am quite happy with my problems and intend to die with them," I replied. Rachel was just as horrified as Mr. Guru. "Oliver, are you ready to resolve the issue that we left unresolved or not?" "I don't know," I replied, not daring to boldly intervene. "I'll tell you straight out, I'm not interested in going back to the past or trying to fix something. I'm only here because the court ordered it. I will do whatever the court requires of me, and then we will proceed with the divorce. That's my plan. Do you understand where I left off? I can inform the judge that you refuse to cooperate, and this may lead to you being held in contempt of court, Mr. Gu warned. I'm not sure about that, I replied. If you come to the judge again and lie, these sessions are recorded. My lawyer can subpoena the records and prove your dishonesty. I'm here. I'm doing whatever you say. You asked me about my goals. I told you what they are. You see, I'm cooperating, I replied. He blushed in response. The judge probably thought that you would try to settle your differences, he said. I reminded him that I was responsible only for my actions, not for the judge's assumptions. He tried to complicate the situation by assigning me tasks, such as spending time with Rachel, who did her best to change my mind. Oliver, what do I need to do to get you to reconsider the divorce and fix the situation? Rachel asked. It will require divine intervention, I replied. She waited patiently for me to explain, but I didn't say anything. What exactly do you mean by God's intervention? She finally asked. If you can find a way to turn back time and make Jerry disappear, then maybe it will work, I replied. But other than that, I do not know that anyone other than God has such abilities. Maybe you have some hidden talents that you haven't shared with me, Rachel, I teased. As we continued our conversation, I couldn't help but mention her extraordinary ability to attract men with her feminine charm. The tedious exercise routine turned into meaningless singing until it finally came to an end. We returned to the court where the judge asked about our progress. Your Honor, my client does not intend to remain married to Rachel, Baxter said. We want to finalize the divorce as soon as possible. After thinking about it, the judge granted our request, and just 10 days later, the official decision was delivered by mail. Toby often visited her mother, whom she adored, and spent a lot of time with her grandparents, whom she also loved very much. From time to time, Rachel offered Toby classes together, but it never compared to the bond she shared with her friends, especially with her close friend Sabrina. Sabrina, a petite blonde, expected Toby to become her favorite companion and practically a member of the family. She was as adorable as a newborn kitten and had a sweet personality. I was happy with them, and they began to involve me in their activities. One of their favorite activities was water skiing. We had a boat, and when the summer holidays started, we spent most of Saturday at one of the nearby lakes. On Monday, they asked me if we could go to the lake for the weekend, take our van, and stay there until Sunday evening. Since my social calendar wasn't too busy, I decided this was a great plan. Toby and Sabrina spent a week planning, and on Thursday, we packed everything they asked for. On Friday afternoon, a new red Jeep Cherokee pulled up to our driveway, and Sabrina quickly got out of the car. A woman who almost looked like her got out from the driver's side, and Toby ran up to greet her, throwing herself into the arms of a stranger. Dad, this is Julie, she said. She's Sabrina's mom, and I know you haven't met her yet. Julie held out her hand. Hi, Oliver. The girls told me all the details about you. I am very grateful for the invitation to join you this weekend. To be honest, I'm a little jealous that they spend so much time with you and not with me, she said, smiling playfully. I understood where her daughter's charm came from as I glanced at Toby, who gave me a warning look. My nerves started to give out, and I knew when to back off when I noticed Sabrina's gaze. She raised an eyebrow, further increasing my excitement. This weekend was going to be unforgettable. Julie was stunned by my words. We always have a great time, I said, leaving her speechless. She quickly figured it out, looked between me and the girls, and then exclaimed, "Oh my God, you didn't know, did you?" Before she could say anything else, she was overwhelmed by a flurry of hugs, kisses, and reassurances from the girls. Sabrina assured her, "Please, Mom, don't worry about it. We're going to have a lot of fun." Toby added, "It's okay, Julie. Dad will love you as much as I do, and he's a great guy." Toby was thrilled. Look how tightly he's holding on. She managed to break free and turn to face them. Both of you, go and wait on the porch while I talk to Oliver, she ordered. They hesitated, but she insisted, now taking her words to heart. They quickly obeyed. "I'm really sorry, Oliver. I didn't know about it, she admitted. I'll make a decision and leave, she sighed, feeling embarrassed. I stepped forward and hugged her. Initially tense, she eventually relaxed. Yes, it's awkward, I admitted. They can be quite mischievous, but we both know they're okay. I guessed that she was single, to which she looked up at me and giggled. She was undeniably charming. No, that's not the point, she replied. Do you really think so? I nodded in agreement. That's the problem. You packed your bags and left for the weekend. The trip to the lake will be amazing. I'm not a villain, as you've already heard from Toby. Let's make a deal. It will be nice, maybe we'll add a little spice to everything. Do you agree? Stepping back, she looked at the impatient faces of the girls and agreed, yes, let's do it. I gave them a thumbs up, and they eagerly jumped to their feet and hurried to join us. Toby's joyful voice could be heard in the distance. I stepped up to them and grabbed one of the girls by the arms. Girls, that wasn't very kind, I vowed. Sabrina looked at me and giggled in her best Skeletor way. I'm not kind, she said, causing us all to burst out laughing. They were too pure and innocent for me to tell them off. We see what you're up to, I warned them. Stop it, I'm serious. You can't just dance around this problem, trying to improve the lives of others, one of the girls said. But I love Julie, Toby protested, saying that she didn't know how to introduce me to her. I reassured her by saying that she could just tell me. She looked sad for a moment, but I reassured her, saying that everything was fine and it wouldn't happen again. She immediately perked up when Sabrina pulled on my hand, urging me to go because she couldn't wait. It's going to be great, Oliver, you'll see, she said. Julia laughed and said that this should be the limit of what is really cool and noted that we are losing daylight. We took 2 bags from her Jeep and got into the car. Having secured the boat and stopped for propane, we set off on our way to the lake. Julie got in the front seat next to me, and we drove for half an hour while we were chatting and getting to know each other. The girls turned on terrible music via Bluetooth connections. I found out that Julie owns her own insurance company and works as a financial planner. Looking at her during the conversation, I couldn't help but notice how charming she was. I expected Sabrina to look like Julia when she was younger, but in fact, she looked much younger than me. Being 3 years younger, she had light brown hair cascading down to her waist, a beautiful tan, huge brown eyes, high cheekbones, and a heart-shaped face with a small widow's peak on a wide forehead that gave her a youthful appearance. Despite wearing jeans and a button-down shirt, she had a slim and graceful figure. I didn't want to laugh at her, so I ignored her until we got to the lake. We were allowed to park the boat, then the van. They pushed me outside while they were changing, and in the meantime, I turned on the water. They came out when they finished changing, and I went inside, put on my swimming trunks and a t-shirt, and we were ready. We took a cooler full of drinks and hit the road. We ran a couple of miles on the lake, and they were ready to ride. The girls dropped their long t-shirts, revealing their usual awkward figures, but Julia was different. She radiated confidence and grace. I called her slim, but in fact, she was petite but undeniably feminine. When she turned to watch the other girls leave through the back door, my breath caught in my throat. The bikini accentuated her graceful buttocks, small, round, and sticking out like a perfect shelf. When she turned to meet my gaze, a smile played on her lips, and she winked at me. Despite her small breasts, everything about her was perfectly proportioned. Her smile was soothing, and even her teeth were flawless. I grinned, realizing that she really was perfection in miniature. She sat down next to me, wanting to chat and keep an eye on the girls at the same time. We enjoyed 3 hours of skiing, with Julie showing off her impressive skills both on the water and at the helm of the boat. It was hard for me to keep up with her and the girls, but I persevered despite the difficulties. When we returned to the park, the girls changed into dressing gowns. Although there was a wonderful stove in the van, they insisted on cooking outside. We set up a camping stove, and I lit a fire in the barbecue on our property. I cooked sausages, and they boiled potatoes and onions, and opened cans of pork and beans. We took some food with us from home, but there's something about camping food that always tastes better. Sitting at the picnic table provided by the club, we quickly became close and felt as if we had been friends for many years. The girls started calling Julia Jules, and she liked it. She even gave me the nickname Ollie. The other girls kept pointing out that Jules wasn't married, and I finally asked her why. I mean, you're amazing, funny, and smart. You have your own successful business. Why hasn't anyone locked you down yet? There was a moment of silence before she finally replied, well, the main reason is Sabrina, Jules confessed. I was young and stupid, Ollie. It was my last year of college, and I thought I'd found the love of my life. I realized I was pregnant just a week before I graduated from college. I wasn't very unhappy. We discussed the idea of getting married after graduating from college, but it looks like this plan has failed, since you're talking about it in the past tense, I said. Unfortunately, this is not destined to come true. Just 3 days after I confided in Brad, I found out that he had been unfaithful to me for a month. I broke off the relationship and moved on without looking back. With Sabrina's arrival, my social life took a back seat for a while. After that, I devoted myself to developing my business. Finally, after taking a deep breath and thinking about the idea of dating, I came to realize that I was blessed with a special gift from God. This person occupied all my thoughts, and I couldn't imagine my life without her, she expressed. I shared my feelings by saying that Toby is my top priority and that she is very important to my well-being. She gently put her hand on my shoulder, understanding and acknowledging the deep connection between Toby and me. She claimed Toby was telling Sabrina and her everything. I'm sorry, Ollie, life can be hard sometimes, we both sighed. Looking up, we noticed that 2 pairs of supportive and affectionate eyes were looking at us. They were talking quietly, sitting on folding chairs under the awning. I'm very worried about your daughter, I confessed. She almost feels like a member of my family because she spends a lot of time with us. She cares about you too, she replied. The other day, she confessed to me that you look like the father she never had. Looking into her big brown eyes full of tears, I gently wiped a tear from her small brown cheek. She's a wonderful girl, I said. I think her mother must be an extraordinary woman to raise such a strong and brave daughter alone. She smiled through her tears, stood up, kissed me on the cheek, and returned to the group of girls. After a wonderful weekend spent together, when she was preparing to leave our house, I went to the window of her car and nervously asked, Jules, will you go on a date with me next Friday? Sabrina and Toby squealed with joy, and Jules beamed with her radiant smile. What time is it? She asked. At 6 o'clock, I replied. We'll have dinner, and then we'll do something interesting. Does that sound good? Jules agreed and even suggested that Toby stay with Sabrina while we went for a walk. It was a tempting offer, and of course, I agreed. After she kissed me on the cheek, and they left, Toby was waiting for me at the entrance. So, did you ask her out? Did you kiss her? She asked. I hugged her and playfully slapped her on the shoulder. Yes, I did, and it's none of your business, I replied. She screamed, making the same sound as Sabrina. I knew it. She's perfect for you, Dad. I love her so much, and Sabrina is like a sister to me, Toby expressed. I shrugged, wondering what would happen next. Toby, it's okay. You can't make it happen. Please stop playing matchmaker, I said. She put her head on my chest. I understand, Dad, but you were never going to do anything but love me until I took some action. I don't mind being the only woman in your life. I giggled. You will always hold a special place in my heart that no one else can reach. You're my baby, and that's never going to change, she purred and snuggled up to me for a moment. After that, she went about her business. Our first date was a success as I introduced her to a game of racquetball. Although she was new to the sport, her tennis experience helped her understand the mechanics of hitting. When she got acquainted with the rules and began maneuvering on the court, she demonstrated great skill. Thanks to her natural athleticism, she excelled at the game, showcasing lightning-fast speed and agility that surpassed my own. Her small stature worked to her advantage, allowing her to quickly change direction on the court. After the game, we sat at a table near the court, enjoyed drinks, and relaxed. Suddenly, she pulled out her phone and offered to take a picture of the children. We posed with rackets and glasses, and she took the picture. The children responded immediately, giving us a pleasant memory. Later, we showered and went to eat. We tasted delicious Italian food and ate our fill. After finishing our wine, Jules sat next to me in the booth, and we leaned back in our chairs, just enjoying the moment. We talked quietly, feeling at ease. Without thinking, I hugged her, and she snuggled up to me, smiling. Her cuteness struck me again. It was an eternal quality that would never disappear. When we reached her house, she leaned towards me, her eyes full of anticipation. I understood her silent request for a kiss and obeyed. The desire to kiss her overwhelmed me, surpassing even her own need for it. The moment was long and delightful. Her lips were full and velvety with a hint of wine and cherry lipstick. When we parted, I noticed that the curtains were rustling. "Looks like we have an audience," I said. She laughed, her voice resembling her daughter's. "I'm not surprised. They're trying to play matchmaker, you know?" I asked if she minded, and she blushed. "No, I like everything I know about you, Ollie," she said. "Me too," I replied. "We need to go inside before the curtains are removed." For 4 months, we met every Friday, and our bond grew stronger. I couldn't wait to develop our relationship, but I didn't want to rush her. During some sessions, our bond grew even stronger. I realized that I valued her friendship no less than our romantic relationship. We regularly communicated by phone and SMS, exchanging funny jokes and short messages. We were practically the same person. We shared our innermost thoughts and feelings. I couldn't imagine my life without her. Jules was my confidant, partner in crime, and best friend. Our bond was unbreakable, and I felt grateful every day that she was in my life. I knew another person almost as well, although there were subtle and significant differences between us. We were both incredibly charming, and our differences only highlighted our similarities. Life would have seemed perfect if it weren't for Rachel's constant presence. She was still a part of Toby's life and, therefore, mine. I had no desire to communicate with her, and her presence always bothered me. Every time she came to pick up Toby or I took her to her grandparents, she tried to strike up a conversation with me. She continued to live with them even after she lost her job at Jerry's clinic and found a job at another private clinic on the other side of town. If she annoyed me a lot, I would ask if she had heard from him. This quickly stopped her attempts. "How long will it take you to forgive me?" she asked on one such occasion. "Forgive you for what?" I replied. "You don't seem to think you've done anything wrong." Not once did I hear an apology from her. "I'm sorry, Oliver, I was wrong. I also didn't hear. I'm sorry that I tried to make Toby believe that you're a liar. I'm sorry that I tried to take him away from you, tried to punish you in the divorce. And what's worse, I've never heard, I'm sorry that I cheated and made love to that bastard behind your back." She couldn't take responsibility for her actions. I really didn't know how her forgiveness could turn out. I've reconciled and calmed down. I haven't forgotten, but I'm sure I wasn't going to waste a minute grieving about it. People have the right to make stupid decisions. They may decide to break up with you, leave, or end their relationship with you. And it's important to acknowledge this and move on. People make mistakes on a regular basis. Although at first I was tempted to take revenge on those who betrayed me, I eventually realized that their own actions were punishment enough. They had to come to terms with themselves and find peace within themselves. I made the decision to focus on my own well-being, leaving deception and betrayal in the past, and striving to live an authentic life. Rachel was a woman full of discontent, and I wanted the best for Jerry, but I couldn't do it. I decided that fate would deal with them on its own. Jerry turned out to be a real scoundrel. He did a terrible thing to Rachel. He secretly videotaped their lovemaking and uploaded these recordings to an adult website. Now her reputation is disgraced. Her activities in bed have been seen by many. Since these videos are circulating on different sites and are available to many people, Rachel's unhappiness only worsened when she found out that I was dating Jules. I left Toby at her parents' house for the night, and as I was leaving, she came up to me. "I heard that you're dating the mother of one of Toby's friends," she said. I just stared at her. "Is it true?" "What is it exactly?" she asked. "It's my own business," I replied. "Damn it, it's not like that," she snapped. "I'm your wife, and I deserve to know. Your license is worthless. You're not my wife." You found your soulmate, remember? That's why we got divorced. My business is no longer your business, and yours is no longer mine. Leave me alone, Rachel. Stop interfering in my business. When I left, I was all worked up. This woman just didn't want to put up with it. I told Toby about the situation, and she was just as angry as I was. Then I took Toby to her grandparents, and Rachel brought her to us. Now Bob and Cindy's grandparents will be picking her up from our house. This made my task much easier. To celebrate the 7-month anniversary of our trip to the lake, I invited Jules to a chic restaurant and club. She hardly drank, only occasionally sipping a beer. She had 2 glasses that night, and I raised an eyebrow when she ordered the second one. She laughed, joking that she was wild and crazy. Easy, I replied, you're as always impeccable. She asked if I really thought that. Tilting my head in her usual manner, I replied that she was perfect too. Then she asked why I didn't invite her to stay the night if she was so perfect. She laughed at my obvious fear. Have you ever thought about it? I gathered my thoughts and answered, yes, Jules. I haven't been able to think of anything else since that day on the yacht when I first saw you in a bikini. I knew you were unique, special. I didn't want to rush things and risk scaring you off. You won't scare me away, she assured me. I told the girls not to wait for me. Really, what are we doing here? I asked. Oh my God, Jules, let's get out of here, she exclaimed. Would you like to stay at my place for the night? She blushed, took my hand, and let me help her up. More than anything in the world, she replied. When we left, she snuggled up to me, put her head on my shoulder, and held my hand all the way home. I walked her to the door, and when we pulled into the garage, she snuggled up to me all the way to the bedroom. I carefully turned her around on the edge of the bed and bit into her lips with a passionate kiss. It was a moment that seemed like pure magic, drawn out and endless. When we stopped to catch our breath, I found myself lost in the deep warm brown depths of her eyes. She wrapped her arms around my neck, looking into my eyes with vulnerability. Make love to me, Oliver, she whispered. I'm afraid, I reassured her. Don't be afraid. I love you, Julian Barnes, she whispered. I know, you know that, she whispered. But I needed to hear it. I love you too, Oliver. She replied, pulling me closer to her and slowly unzipping her pale blue dress. When I ran my fingers down her back, goosebumps ran over her skin, making her shudder. I took the dress off her shoulders, pulled it down her chest, and onto her hips. She wasn't wearing a bra, but she didn't need one with her small, perfectly shaped breasts that matched her figure so well. Because of her height, they seemed bigger than they really were, covered in a golden tan from sunbathing topless. Turning her towards me, I sat her down on the bed and held her at arm's length to admire her beauty. I was right, she was a flawless beauty in a small package. In her pale blue lace panties, she looked like a charming, graceful statuette. Pulling her to me, I pressed my cheek against her firm stomach, and my hands greedily clutched at her stunning curves. It was the feeling I craved. Getting up, I hurriedly undressed, almost tearing the buttons off my shirt in my impatience to feel myself on her skin. Left in my shorts, I picked her up in my arms like a child, her weight barely reaching 45 kilograms. I gently carried her to the bed, put my arms around her neck, and then gently laid her on the bed. Our passionate kisses intertwined. When she found herself naked in my bed, looking like a romantic angel with loose blonde hair in the form of a halo, eager to explore further, she stopped me by whispering a promise. Later, Oliver. I am ready and full of excitement. It feels like it's been an eternity since I last felt like this. I want you to be with me now. Words were unnecessary as I was standing completely naked. Her sigh at the sight of me was all the confirmation I needed. Oh my God, Ollie, don't stop, darling. I've never experienced anything like this before, she admitted. I asked curiously, how many times have you done this? 3, she admitted, but never like this. We took our time, savoring every moment, slowly exploring our connection. As the situation escalated, the tempo accelerated, and the volume increased. She was energetic, athletic, and completely devoted to our passionate meeting, like everything else in life. When the tension reached its peak, she let out a hoarse scream and clung tightly to me, sending us both over the edge. We fell asleep in each other's arms and made love twice more during the night, both of us taking the initiative at different times. When morning came, I woke up to find an angel lying next to me, her hair cascading over us, and her head snuggled on my shoulder. I watched her sleeping peacefully and gently ran my fingers through her hair until she woke up. Opening her eyes, she snuggled up to me and whispered, "My place is here, Ollie." "I know," I replied quietly. "Do you want to wake up like this every morning?" I asked when she opened her eyes and looked at me. "You mean living together?" she clarified. "No, honey, well, yes, but I mean, will you marry me?" I suggested. She raised her small left hand between our faces and wiggled her fingers. "No," she replied. "I feel like I'm missing something." "Don't think about it," I said, getting out of bed. "I can hold that thought." "I really need to go to the bathroom," I laughed and slapped her buttock, which made her squeal. "Go, and then we'll meet here." She ran away, a little undressed fairy. I went down to my office, stopping to go to the toilet myself. I took what I came for from the safe, and when I returned, she was already curled up under the blanket. I climbed inside and took her left hand again. I looked into her eyes and saw only love there. "Jules, will you marry me?" I put the ring on her finger. It was too big, and we'll have to resize it, but for now, this will do. She picked it up and looked at it. "It's wonderful," she said. "It looks antique. Where did you get it? When did you buy it? Remember I told you I was going to the auction?" I said. "That was about a month ago." "Yes, I remember," she said. "But I didn't tell you that I saw this ring in the catalog and went there with the intention of buying it and asking you to marry me. It was made in England around 1804 for the Duchess of Avon. It has a long history. Do you like it?" "I like it," she said. "This is the most beautiful ring I've ever seen. Are you going to answer my question?" "Yes, I will marry you," she exclaimed. "Oh my God, yes." I laughed and hugged my fiancé. "We need to notify the girls."